The alarm sounds, and your body responds before your mind catches up. You rise because rising is what bodies do at this hour, but something inside remains horizontal, weighted down by an exhaustion that sleep cannot touch. Before the day has even begun to unfold its demands, you already feel the heaviness settling into your chest, your thoughts, even the quality of silence around you. Everything that should feel light carries the density of stone. The world outside your window moves with its usual rhythm. Messages arrive wearing the mask of opportunity. Work extends its hand with promises of purpose. The relentless hum of productivity culture whispers its daily sermon. Keep moving, keep building, keep becoming. But beneath this symphony of forward motion, something darker brews. You are not simply tired from yesterday's efforts. You are carrying a sickness that has no visible symptoms, no clear diagnosis, no moment of infection you can point to and say, there, that is when it began. We have entered an era where suffering wears an invisible cloak. There are no physical chains, no authority figures barking orders, no clear oppressor to resist. Yet the weight remains, perhaps heavier for its lack of obvious source. What we face now is more insidious than the tyrannies of the past. It is the quiet violence of endless expectation, the pressure that comes not from external force, but from a voice that sounds suspiciously like your own. You have become both prisoner and guard, simultaneously trapped and responsible for your own confinement. Philosophers of earlier generations mapped out societies built on prohibition. Power announced itself clearly through walls and rules and the sharp edge of consequences. You were told what you could not do, where you could not go, who you could not become. The boundaries were visible, and the rebellion was straightforward. Resist the rule, push against the wall, defy the order. But that world has quietly dissolved, replaced by something far more sophisticated in its mechanisms of control. Today, almost nothing is forbidden to you. The messages you receive carry a different grammar entirely. You can do anything, become anyone, achieve whatever your mind can conceive. Freedom stretches out before you like an endless highway with no destination. The only requirement is that you keep driving, keep accelerating, keep refusing to accept any limitation as permanent. This sounds liberating until you realize what it truly means. When everything is possible, when every path remains open, when your potential has no ceiling, then every failure to maximize that potential becomes a personal verdict. You did not try hard enough. You did not want it badly enough. You did not optimize correctly. This is the trap disguised as liberation. You have been handed the keys to your own cage and told to call it freedom. The prison has transformed from a place of prohibition into a space of infinite demand, and the cruelest part is that you patrol it yourself. No boss needs to monitor your productivity when you have learned to monitor yourself with far greater precision. No external authority needs to push you toward achievement when you have internalized the push so completely that it feels like desire. You have become an enterprise, with yourself as the sole employee, manager, and evaluator. Every moment becomes a potential site of value creation. Your body is a machine requiring optimization. Your morning routine needs streamlining. Your social interactions should build networks. Your rest must be strategic, your leisure productive, your very existence justified through measurable output. Even the activities that once provided refuge from the world of work have been colonized by its logic. Reading is no longer simply reading. It must enhance your knowledge capital. Exercise is not movement for its own sake. It serves performance enhancement. Meditation has transformed from spiritual practice into productivity tool, another technique for wringing more efficiency from your overtaxed nervous system. The language surrounding you has shifted in telling ways. Positivity has become mandatory, cheerfulness a moral obligation. You are bombarded with injunctions to believe in yourself, to manifest your dreams, to become your best self. These phrases arrive dressed in encouraging tones, accompanied by sunrise imagery and uplifting music. They promise empowerment, but deliver something else entirely. They deliver the message that you are never enough, that your current state is insufficient, that you must always be climbing toward some better version waiting just beyond your reach. This is not the positivity of genuine joy or authentic encouragement. This is positivity as weapon, as system of control, as mechanism for extracting maximum effort from human beings who have been convinced that their worth depends on their output. The relentless drumbeat of "yes, you can" carries within it an unspoken corollary, and if you do not, you have only yourself to blame. There are no structural barriers in this narrative, no systemic obstacles, no valid reasons for struggle. There is only your failure to properly harness your unlimited potential. The toll of this worldview manifests in bodies and minds stretched beyond sustainable limits. Depression, anxiety, attention disorders, and burnout are not individual pathologies in this context. They are social facts, collective symptoms of a culture that demands perpetual acceleration while denying the legitimacy of human limitation. You collapse not because you are weak, but because you have been asked to perform the impossible, to function as an inexhaustible resource, to maintain constant enthusiasm, to treat yourself as a project that never reaches completion. What corrodes you from within is not the old violence of repression, but the new violence of permission. You are free to do anything, which means you must do everything, which means you can never rest, which means exhaustion is not a sign that you need to stop, but evidence that you need better time management, more resilience, training, a new productivity system. The cage has no bars because it does not need them. You have learned to build it yourself, one optimization at a time, one goal at a time, one should at a time, until the weight becomes unbearable, and you wonder why you cannot seem to catch your breath, even though nothing is visibly holding you down. You are no longer simply a person moving through life with its natural rhythms of effort and ease, growth and plateau, striving and surrender. You have become something else entirely. A continuous improvement project, an ongoing investment requiring constant management, a brand that needs cultivation and promotion. Every aspect of your existence has been drawn into this totalizing framework. Your skills must be leveraged. Your network must be expanded. Your personal narrative must be crafted for maximum impact. The question is no longer who you are, but what you can become, and the answer must always involve upward trajectory. This transformation did not announce itself with fanfare. It crept into your life through 1,000 small shifts in language and expectation. At some point, having a job became building a career, which became crafting a professional identity, which became developing a personal brand. Friendship migrated toward networking. Hobbies transformed into side hustles. Self-knowledge became emotional intelligence metrics. Even your spiritual life, if you maintain one, likely bears the marks of this utilitarian logic. Meditation reduces stress to improve focus. Gratitude practices rewire neural pathways. Compassion serves as leadership skill. Nothing is allowed to simply be. Everything must serve the larger project of your endless becoming. The perverse genius of this system lies in how it makes you the author of your own exploitation. No external force compels you to answer emails at midnight, or to spend your commute consuming educational content, or to turn your weekend into an opportunity for skill development. You choose these actions, or so it seems. You want to grow, to improve, to not fall behind in a world that moves with terrifying speed. The pressure has migrated inward, taken up residence in your own thoughts, and speaks to you in your own voice. This makes resistance nearly impossible because you can no longer locate the enemy. How do you fight against your own apparent desires? What gets lost in this relentless march toward optimization is something you may not even recognize as missing until its absence becomes unbearable. There are spaces in human experience that serve no instrumental purpose, produce no measurable outcome, generate no capital of any kind. These are the spaces of genuine leisure, of contemplation, of what earlier generations understood as necessary emptiness. They are the moments when you exist without justification, when you allow yourself to be rather than to do, when you stop managing your life and simply live it. Such moments have become rare to the point of extinction in your daily reality. When did you last allow boredom to settle over you without immediately reaching for your phone? When did you last sit in silence without framing it as meditation practice? When did you last let your mind wander without directing it toward problem solving or planning? The capacity for deep, unstructured contemplation has atrophied in most of us, and we do not even mourn its passing because we have been taught to view it as wasteful. But boredom, the real kind that makes you squirm and reach for distraction, is not your enemy. It is a doorway. When you resist the urge to fill it, when you allow yourself to sink into its uncomfortable emptiness, something else becomes possible. The frantic energy that usually propels you forward begins to settle. The constant mental chatter that narrates and evaluates every experience starts to quiet. In that space of genuine emptiness, you might encounter something you have not met in years. Yourself, unmediated by goals or metrics or the endless performance of productivity. This is the fertile ground from which insight grows. Philosophy did not emerge from busy minds optimizing their cognitive load. Art does not spring from souls committed to maximizing their creative output per hour. The deepest forms of understanding require a quality of attention that cannot be achieved while multitasking or while mentally composing your next message, or while half your awareness remains tethered to the phantom vibration of notifications. Depth requires presence, and presence requires the courage to let everything else fall away for a time. Yet you have been trained in the opposite direction. Your attention fragments across multiple streams of input simultaneously. You watch while scrolling, while half listening, while mentally reviewing your task list. This scattered awareness feels normal now, perhaps even feels like efficiency. But what it actually represents is a state of constant vigilance, the attention pattern of an animal under threat. You scan for danger, for opportunity, for anything that might require immediate response. You never quite land anywhere because you cannot afford to miss what might be happening somewhere else. This way of being extracts a price that exceeds simple tiredness. You lose the ability to engage with anything at depth. Books become difficult to finish. Conversations feel somehow unsatisfying. Even experiences designed for pleasure leave you vaguely restless, as if you are waiting for something more interesting to begin. You are living on the surface of your own life, skimming across experiences without ever diving deep enough to be genuinely nourished by them. Your emotions receive the same treatment. You feel things, certainly, but you do not inhabit your feelings long enough to learn what they might be telling you. Sadness gets classified as unproductive and quickly pushed aside. Anger becomes something to manage rather than understand. Even joy is often experienced at a distance, mediated through the impulse to capture and share it rather than simply feeling it fully. You have learned to process your inner life with the same efficiency mindset you bring to everything else, which means you never really touch the depths of your own experience. The exhaustion you carry has roots in this constant skimming, this perpetual splitting of attention, this refusal to ever fully arrive anywhere. You are tired not just from doing too much, but from never quite being anywhere at all. You are spread so thin across so many simultaneous demands and opportunities and inputs that there is barely enough of you left to constitute a coherent presence. And somewhere beneath the noise and motion, a part of you that remembers what it feels like to simply exist is slowly suffocating. Reclaiming that part requires an act that feels almost revolutionary in its simplicity. You must be willing to stop. Not stop in order to rest so you can perform better tomorrow. Not stop as strategic pause, but genuinely stop with no agenda, no plan for what the stopping will produce. You must be willing to face what emerges in that space, the discomfort and the silence and the strange void where your constant doing used to be. You must develop the capacity to sit with emptiness until it transforms from threat into invitation, from wasteland into possibility. Everything in your formation has taught you that freedom means capability. The freer you are, the logic goes, the more you can accomplish, choose, create, and control. Freedom is measured in options, in doors that open, in possibilities that multiply before you. You have spent your life trying to expand this territory of can, pushing back the boundaries of limitation, refusing to accept no as answer. The entire culture reinforces this understanding. Freedom equals power, equals the ability to do whatever you set your mind to achieving. But there exists another kind of freedom that nobody speaks about, one that moves in the opposite direction entirely. It is the freedom that comes from reclaiming your right to not do, not achieve, not optimize, not improve. It is the radical permission to be incapable, to refuse participation, to say no not because you have weighed the options and found them wanting, but simply because you are allowed to decline. This sounds almost absurd in a world where your value is constantly assessed through your output, yet it may be the only authentic liberation available. The society of endless performance traps you precisely through its appearance of choice. You can do anything, which secretly means you must do everything, which actually means you can never stop. The imperative hides inside the permission. When ability becomes obligation, when potential becomes pressure, when freedom transforms into the burden of constant self-actualization, then the only rebellious act remaining is refusal. The revolutionary gesture in an age of compulsory productivity is the simple, quiet no. This no takes many forms. It is declining the opportunity that everyone says you should seize. It is not answering the message immediately, or at all. It is leaving potential unrealized without guilt. It is accepting that you will not read all the books, learn all the skills, optimize all the systems, become all the versions of yourself that shimmer in imagination's distance. It is the willingness to disappoint, to underperform, to fall short of what you could theoretically achieve if you just tried harder. It is releasing yourself from the tyranny of your own potential. Such refusal feels dangerous because it dismantles the logic you have used to justify your existence. If you are not constantly improving, what are you? If you are not maximizing your capabilities, what is the point? If you are not on an upward trajectory, have you not failed? These questions reveal how deeply the performance imperative has colonized your sense of self-worth. You have learned to believe that you earn your right to exist through what you produce, achieve, and become. The thought of simply being, without the constant work of self-creation, feels like falling into an abyss. But what if that abyss is actually solid ground? What if the exhaustion, the anxiety, the sense of never being enough are not signs that you need to try harder, but evidence that you need to stop trying altogether? What if the voice telling you to do more, be more, achieve more is not your authentic self speaking, but the internalized demands of a system that benefits from your endless striving? The freedom of refusal begins when you can distinguish between what you genuinely want and what you have been taught to want, between your real needs and the manufactured needs that keep you running on the wheel. Saying no to the imperative of performance is not laziness or surrender or giving up on yourself. It is the opposite. It is reclaiming yourself from a mode of existence that treats you as resource to be maximized rather than human being to be honored. It is recognizing that your worth is not conditional on your productivity, that your value does not require constant demonstration, that you are enough simply by virtue of existing. This recognition does not come easily because everything around you contradicts it, but it represents the only escape from the cage of endless self-optimization. The burnout you experience, the collapse that feels so personal and shameful, is not individual failure. It is a social phenomenon, a collective symptom of a fundamentally unsustainable way of organizing human life. When an entire generation reports, feeling exhausted despite having more freedom and opportunity than any generation in history, the problem is not with the individuals. The problem is with the system that calls exploitation freedom and calls exhaustion personal weakness. Your breakdown is not your fault. It is your body and psyche rebelling against conditions that no human nervous system was designed to endure. Understanding this distinction changes everything. You are not broken. You are responding appropriately to a broken model. You are not failing to cope. You are experiencing the natural consequences of trying to function as an inexhaustible machine in a world that recognizes no legitimate limits. The tiredness that will not lift, the motivation that will not return, the sense of running on empty while still being expected to perform, these are not character flaws. They are reality trying to get your attention, trying to tell you that something fundamental needs to change. That change does not begin with finding a better productivity system, or developing more resilience, or learning superior coping strategies. It begins with recognition, with seeing clearly what is happening, how the pressure operates, where it comes from, why it feels so inescapable. With understanding that the exhaustion is not yours alone, but belongs to everyone trapped in the same logic. With allowing yourself to feel the full weight of what you have been carrying without immediately trying to fix it or transcend it or turn it into another project of self-improvement. Recognition without immediate action is its own form of power. You do not need to know the solution in order to acknowledge the problem. You do not need a clear path forward in order to stop walking the path that is destroying you. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply stop pretending that everything is fine. Stop performing okayness. Stop pushing through as if sheer force of will can make an unsustainable situation sustainable. Sometimes the bravest act is admitting that you are not managing, you are barely surviving, and you need something different, even if you cannot yet name what that something is. The invitation here is not to another version of striving, another way to become better at being human. It is an invitation to a different rhythm entirely, one that honors your limitations instead of treating them as obstacles to overcome. It is permission to live at a pace that allows you to actually inhabit your life instead of constantly racing through it. It is the possibility of wholeness, not as achievement, but as return to something you have always been beneath all the layers of performance and optimization and endless becoming. You were not born to be a productivity unit. You came into existence with the capacity for rest, for wonder, for presence, for connection that serves no purpose beyond itself. That capacity remains, buried but not destroyed, waiting for you to remember that being human is enough.